Hello and welcome to the TTP Field Manual. This is a very Warhammer pilled podcast. With me, as always, is my good old mate, Jonny. How are you, Jonny?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. How are you today?
Today, it is presently 1 a.m. in the time zone I am in, Jonny.
No. It's 9 a.m. here, just because you're recording from the wrong side of the world.
Oh, it's okay. I don't mind. I'm a bit of a night owl anyway.
Mate, could not be me.
I know. I went and did other stuff podcast related the other night when you stopped texting me at 8 a.m. your time.
That was 8 p.m. my time, and I was very tired.
Sorry, yes, 8 p.m. My bad.
I'm an old man, alright?
It's always a struggle for me, even like at our normal recording times. I gotta force myself awake, all that jazz. It's usually like the first day of my weekend, so I'm pretty slow going. You know, I'm turning up to the podcast recording like, "Hey Jonny, how you going? I'm still drinking my coffee." And you're just like, "Mate, where have you been? I've been here for 2 hours."
At least this way, we both hit our target best time, because I'm better in the mornings and you're better at night.
It's actually pretty poetic.
And also, this is the first time we've recorded in a while where we haven't had like a half-hour period beforehand where you're just sneezing into a tissue.
Yeah. You know, the amount of people where we live that say, "Joshy, how on earth can you deal with your chronic allergies that are labeled as severe by doctors?" And I just say, by leaving the country. I'm allergic to the dust and the pollen, so I'm going to just leave the country. And well, would you look at that, Jonny?
You haven't breathed
All
so
good
well
here.
in like 6 to 9 months, right?
Yeah, right now. Hang on. Yep, I'm breathing out of both nostrils and I don't feel congested in my throat. How about that?
Nice. Well, today we're going to be having a fun discussion, but before we do that, you got some show notes for us, Joshy?
Show notes, Jonny. We always have a book club now that we are working towards, so we are reading the Warhammer 40,000 Adeptus Sororitas focused novel Requiem Infernal. It is part of Peter Fehervari's Dark Coil series. I don't think it matters what order you read it in, but if it matters to you, there are articles. Just Google Peter Fehervari Dark Coil. Ta-da. I have actually just started the process of putting us on YouTube. The channel exists, but there's nothing on there, so don't worry about it till I tell you. Just wanted to tease you guys a little bit there. Jonny, how is your pet project going?
Which one?
This was my segue for you to hype up Discord, but okay.
I'm joking. The Discord is live. We're starting to see some faces leak in slowly, so please go ahead and join. I will attempt to be a little more available in the voice chat for the near future, so if you want to get in and have an actual casual discussion with us before it gets too busy for us to theoretically do that, please feel free to jump in and say hi.
Yeah, for sure. If you aren't particularly Discord focused, I do also put some things up on our Instagram, TTP Field Manual, as we go along. Various members of our gaming group pitching in, taking photos and the like for things such as little battle reports and work in progress Wednesdays, that kind of deal. Yeah, book club, YouTube's in the making, Discord's live, Instagram exists, get onto it. Anything else to contribute, my friend?
How's your hobbying been?
Ooh, not really happening. Actually, hobby adjacent stuff, actually. I was in Munich, Germany a couple of days ago, and I went to one of my favorite little nerd stores that has many different, parts to it. Shout out to Funtainment. They have, a section for manga and pop culture, a section for, this stuff that we're talking about today, another, video game section, blah, blah, blah. And I did manage to pick up one of the community published things for one of my favorite tabletop RPGs, Morkborg. The community made thing is called Pirate Borg, and it's really cool. Pirate Borg is entirely written by a member of, I guess you could say, the community of Morkborg. And through this sort of workshop licensing agreement, the actual company that publishes Morkborg helped them put together the actual book, which I think is pretty neat. When I get back to Australia, Jonny will have to play Pirate Borg.
I would like to get into a little bit of RPGing at some point in the near future, so I'm all for it.
Yeah, and actually 3 hours ago, I just got back from watching the new Fantastic Four.
Oh yeah? Would you say that it's fantastic?
I would say it's fantastic, Jonny. I'm obviously not going to spoil it.
That's all I need to know.
I've seen both that movie and I've seen Superman. Both I found very enjoyable. Bit of a breath of fresh air, creatively speaking. Both of them actually felt like the comic books come to life, not just comic book inspired. Yeah, I had a blast. I can't say too much more without accidentally spoiling things. So yeah, if you're into that stuff, I would give it my seal of approval compared to some other things over the last few years.
Nice.
How about you, mate? How's your hobbying?
My hobbying is on the back burner at the moment. I've been very invested in other avenues of reality and falling way too far behind on hobby time. I really need to sit down and get some paint on some models.
That's okay. You're about to hobby in a couple of hours, though.
Sure am.
You're going to be gaming.
I'm going to throw some robots at some more robots. See who sticks around.
Are you going to have a mirror match? A Chaos Knights mirror match?
Sure am. Infernal Lance versus the Lords of Dread.
But Jonny, I don't know what either of those things are. Should you tell me all about it, perhaps, in today's episode?
What a segue.
I love segues.
Yes, today we'll be discussing the Codex Chaos Knights. A little behind on the Codex supplement reviews, but hey, we needed to review some more recent stuff.
Hey. Eventually, we'll get all the advanced copies and, the more established names in the, I guess you could say the blogging, the community, vocal members. I don't know how you would put it. The influencers of Warhammer. I don't know. These people get a lot of their a lot of the stuff advanced to them so they can put out their stuff as soon as it's available to pre-order, to buy.
Must be a nice life.
You and I, my friend, we're hobbyists. We do this just when we get around to it.
That's it.
But we're going to be doing Chaos Knights Codex. Do you want to pitch me on what Chaos Knights are in the context of 40k? If no one's listened to our previous episodes, I know you've done this song and dance before, but what are Chaos Knights in 40k and how do they play in a game sense?
Chaos Knights do not fit. That is the best way to describe them. They break the game a little bit. Not necessarily in an OP, we're just going to run over everything way, but they are a stat check army. They are an army that focuses solely on vehicles with big walkers that start at toughness 9 and go up very quickly with lots of wounds. So they are about as hyper elite as you can have for an army. You tend to get into these games where if your opponent doesn't have enough anti-tank, there's not a lot they can do about your big knights. But if they do, you could be losing significant firepower every single turn. The Chaos Knights, as opposed to the Imperial version, have a focus on D words, is the best way to put it. Yeah. Whether that be despair, doom, darkness, all the scary words that start with D, which we will get into in their army rule a bit more, but the idea is that the Chaos Knights are these great, terrifying, corrupted war machines from a past age that are so filled with anger and hatred that even the people around them and near them have this supernatural sense of dread come over them. They're terrifying to behold, and that's kind of their whole purpose. Is how that translates in the game. It tends to be battle shock, which, let's be real, ain't the best. But if you were going to try and focus on battle shock, this is probably one of the better armies to do it.
I would agree with that statement.
Yeah. if you like big stompy robots in your game of miniature men, this is the right place to be, in my opinion.
Yeah, you've really sold it. When I'm reading the army rule here with all the D words, these are conceptually a very horrifically intimidating faction within the Warhammer tapestry, but all their rules are written like what a teenager goth would write for like their song lyrics, like their little journal, like song lyrics or something, their little poetry, like deathly terror, despair, doom, darkness, delirium. But yeah, they are a bit of a stat check army. Our game group, not very meta chasing, really struggled when we were first learning this game to actually like go into these really tough bodies. Like every, faction has, like a tank with a big laser on it, or a couple of units that are just designed, with their role to take down these tanks. But a lot of us didn't have that stuff when we first started out. We were buying like start sets and a couple of things that we just thought looked cool. And then we just couldn't kill you before you killed us. Or even if we tried to score the points, you would send the smaller variants of the Chaos Knights like ahead of the pack and just mow down those little objective holders at the far ends of the board. So we couldn't even do that. But now people are starting to get their heads around it and have a few more tools in their tool belt, eh?
Yeah, that's it. And it's really changed the way people build their lists, especially in our little group, which isn't a bad thing.
Have you been seeing like any of the tournament metas recently?
Oh, I haven't looked at lists, but I have definitely seen the numbers, and it made me cry a little bit when I realized that both of my armies are up there and they're both going to get nerfed.
Oh, that's so true. The metas are obviously a bit of a cat and mouse game. Every couple of months there's a new top dog in the schoolyard, and both Imperial Knights and Chaos Knights are, cream of the crop. And so everyone's, in the tournament scene is putting together like anti-vehicle kits and mortal wound dealing kits and just like super anti that. And then you have some like knight players bringing in like anti-infantry kits to, stop the anti-tank kits. And then you've got like a couple of players building around a game plan that is all infantry to counter the players that are building for anti-tank and don't have much to do. It's so silly to watch. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of people saying that Imperial Knights and Chaos Knights are a big problem at the moment because they're really forcing the meta into this like rock, paper, scissors gameplay.
Absolutely. That's a really good way of putting it. Rock, paper, scissors. Who am I being partnered up against? Oh, rock. Whoops, I'm a scissors build. Oh well, I'm out of the tournament. Yeah. At least with Chaos Knights, there are a few detachments now with this codex. Imperial Knights had a points reduction to be somewhat on par with the economy of Chaos Knights, but they don't have their codex yet. So every like Imperial Knights list is like Canis Rex and like 2 to 3 Atropos Cerastus Knights and like maybe an Armiger, and that's it. And they're winning.
Yeah. It's pretty silly, and I'm sure eventually things will calm down, but at the moment it's a rough world out there, and I'm waiting for tournament organizers to start putting temporary bans on things like they did with orcs.
That's true. They did do that.
Like, I'm waiting for people to be like, just don't bring a Castus Knights or whatever, or cutting Imperial armor out of the lists temporarily until such a time as things get rebalanced.
First impressions, Johnny. You are a Chaos Knights player through and through. This is your faction number 1. How do you like your codex?
I'm very happy with it. Like, that's the best way to put it, is I'm very happy with this codex. I think it's full of flavor. There's a lot to see and do. I feel like all the detachments have a place. Like, the internal balance is very well done. it doesn't really feel like there's a bad knight per se. The big knights are finally seeing play, which to me just makes me giddy with boyish joy, because previously it was you just run war dogs because they're the best for points in the army. Now we're starting to see Cerastus Knights for the first time. Despoilers and rampages. We're seeing multiple abominants on tables. Like, every knight feels good, and I'm super happy about it.
Hell yeah, my brother. I'm very stoked to hear it's all good. A lot of these recent codices have been bangers.
Yeah, they've really come into their swing.
Yeah, I'm keen to get through this codex with you, but you can lead us through the Chaos Knights if you'd like. Where would you like to start us off? Datasheets? Do you want to start us off with the models? We could talk about the new kid on the block. We could talk the army rule. Like, where do you want to start this review?
I think this might be a time for us to start with the army rule. It's not as hugely impactful on like each individual knight, and there's not a super amount of play between the knights and the army rule. It's kind of just like there. But we can also talk about the super heavy walker keyword, which will show up a fair bit throughout the models as well. So our army rule is the Harbingers of Dread. This is mainly a battle shock centric army rule, and it's kind of harkens back to the 9th edition army rule, where you could move between these different phases to unlock different abilities at different points in the game. This is significantly better than what they did with the index, and I really like this rework. It also gives a little bit of like play in what you can do and adaptability to your surroundings, which is very nice to see. At the start of the game, you start with the Deathly Terror ability, which is enemies within 9 inches of this model worsen their leadership scores by 1, which is that's very similar to what we had in the Index Detachment and Army rule already. But on top of that, you can either choose one of the 6 abilities, or you can roll and potentially have 2 of them. But if you roll doubles or an overlap, it doesn't do anything because you've already got that ability. Then on turns 3 and 5, you get to make that decision again, whether it be choosing one or rolling for them. And there are 6 other abilities you can have, and they are, as we mentioned before, very D-word centric. They are Despair, Doom, Darkness, Dismay, Delirium, or Dominion.
So edgy.
The edgelords are here.
Although these guys have the muscle to back them up.
Oh yeah. What they actually do is you can worsen the leadership by another 1, so -2 to leadership. You've got adding 1 to wound rolls of battle-shocked units. You've got stealth as kind of like a keyword. It's each time an attack is made against this model, if the attacking unit is battle-shocked or more than 18 inches away, you subtract 1 from the hit roll. You've got Dismay's Aura, which is similar to what we saw in the Index, where if they are below starting strength, they make a battle shock test instead of below half. You've got Delirium, which is mortal wounds if they fail battle shocks near you. And you've got Dominion, which increases all of your ranges of aura abilities by 3. And as we said, you can pick and choose these or roll for them randomly. In my experience, your first turn is better off rolling and then choosing from there. But having that -1 to hit at the start of the game can be very nice. So Darkness is a very strong ability. Stops you from getting shot off the board before you get a chance to move up. On top of that, Imperial and Chaos Knights have a unique keyword, being the super heavy walker keyword, which this is what allows them to get around these huge blocks of terrain that are all over the board and actually move up and do things. So each time a model with this ability makes a normal, advance, or fallback move, it can move through models and terrain features that are 4 inches or less, as long as it doesn't end its turn within engagement range or within a wall. But you can also move through terrain of 4 inches or more. But if you do, you roll a d6, and on a 1, it's Battle Shock. So shall we talk about some knights?
We can. I just wanted to say I really like the Harbingers of Dread as an army rule. I'm a little surprised that you can roll duplicates and you're not just forced to reroll. Like, it's just like, oh, too bad. You tried, you gambled. Oh well. Like, that's a whole game that you now have to play with one less.
Mate, Chaos loves to gamble, alright?
But these are really good. If you can get a few of those off, like there are a couple of like decent synergies, like, you know, Despair and Dominion strikes out at me as being really good, especially if you're trying to focus more of a Battle Shock game plan. But the other ones they're just good. Like Darkness is a very safe bet. Delirium also could be like, you know, that little partnership with Despair, because Delirium you suffer damage if you fail that Battle Shock. There's a lot of good little synergy. It's very, very fun.
It's nice to see not only does Battle Shock matter, but there is something that you can gain from it in this, because Battle Shock tests in 10th edition haven't been great. It's kind of just like, okay, cool, he's Battle Shocked, or I just spend a CP and they're not Battle Shocked, you know? Whereas that makes it so much more important when there's a chance at like mortal wounds, or, you know, it's now got -1 to hit, or you're getting wounded easily. Like, there's actually a threat to being Battle Shocked, which is nice.
Yeah, there's an argument about Battle Shock to be made that it's more relevant for your more competitive playing because it's a numbers game. Like, can I score this secondary objective?
Yeah.
Can I hold this objective? You know, do I need to make sure this unit can do that stratagem combo so that my game plan works? Like, there's a lot more emphasis on not being Battle Shocked. But in casual games, the amount of times it actually matters is pretty limited. But as you said,
It does,
you know, there's actual consequences now.
Yeah. No, it's really good. I actually really like this army rule. It's much simpler and a little bit more competitive than the 9th edition one, which was kind of like a pendulum style moving between different modes over the course of the game, whereas this is a bit more structured. There's a little bit of play in there because you can influence it a little bit. No, it's cool. And one of the detachments works very well with it.
Hell yeah. You wanted to do data sheets next, hey?
Yeah, let's talk about some knights.
Do we want to start with small boys, big boys, Forge World boys? Where do we want to go?
Let's start with the War Dogs. They are probably the biggest change in terms of the Codex, with a significant reduction in power for some of them and a little bit of a buff for a couple. Their points haven't changed drastically as well, so these changes are a little bit more of a nerf than a buff.
Do we want to quickly explain how you can acquire some of these War Dogs? Because I think some of them are, you know, you take them from the Imperial Knights, right? You're gonna cover me there? Cool.
We were gonna get there when we talked about those knights.
Okay, cool. Because I don't know, man. Sometimes I still struggle.
Mate, it's annoying, to put it lightly. Chaos Knights have access to 5 War Dog profiles, and they're essentially just the gun loadouts with a different ability depending on which weapons they're equipped with, essentially. You can buy these guys in a pack of 2, which is pretty good. Points and money-wise, pretty good. Can't complain. It's like 260 to 280 points worth of models in this box. But the problem is, there are 2 different kits you have to buy if you want the options. There is the War Dogs box, which has all the weapons for the Brigand, the Carnivore, and the Stalker, mainly because the chain gun is in this kit, and the Claw is in this kit that the Carnivore has. Otherwise, you can buy the Imperial Knight Armature kit, which doesn't have the Claw in it, and it doesn't have the chain gun. But this one can build the Huntsman and the Executioner, because this kit has the autocannons.
Of course.
And it's just
Makes sense.
This really weird situation where one of these boxes can't make all the War Dogs, sorry. And currently in the, which knights are better than others, you are split between these 2 boxes.
Oh dear.
Yeah. It's an interesting thing where if you were to buy one of each box, you could make 4 War Dogs that are basically any War Dog, as long as there's not too much, as long as you don't want 4 of one of them. For this reason, at least in like our local playgroup, I tend to just run whatever I want with that War Dog, just trying to differentiate it as close as I can based on weapons, without being like, oh, this one has these guns, so it's this, just proxying it a little bit, just because I don't want to go through all the effort of magnetizing it. And if you wanted to magnetize these, you would have to buy 2 boxes just to get 2 War Dogs worth of weapons out of it. But yes, this is a little bit of a problem with War Dogs.
Do they outline that like in the Codex at all, like how to obtain them?
Oh, no, not at all. On top of that, when they released the Codex, they released a battle force for this army, which is just 7 War Dogs. But you can only make the Carnivore, Brigand, or Stalker with that box. You cannot make the Huntsman or Executioner. So out of those 7 War Dogs they've just given you, you're locked out of 2 of them.
Icky wicky, I have to say.
Yes, because you need the Flamer and the Autocannon out of the Armiger box. It's an interesting situation, but if you were to buy that box of 7 War Dogs, you would have so many leftover bits, it's not funny. You would actually feel pretty bad about how much plastic is left on the sprues because of all the weapon options.
Yeah, they're pretty bit heavy. But you can then use those bits to make your Imperial War Dogs actually look the part.
Exactly, that's it. And you get some birdies in that box, in the War Dog box.
Oh, I love the birds.
The birds are cool. They're called Terrashades. It's a terrifying name for what looks like a vulture. But to get to Datasheets, now that the rant's out of the way.
There you go. It's important.
It is. Pre-Codex, there was this strange divide where you ran the Carnivore as your melee option, the Brigand as your ranged option, and everything else didn't matter. The Executioner and the Huntsman were not played, and the Stalker you would only ever run one because it was the only one with the character keyword.
Yeah, I remember not hearing Executioner or Huntsman leave your mouth.
It was a problem both with the internal balance and also with the meta of Chaos Knights, because it forced you into this War Dogs only game plan, because you had to try and keep up with the other armies and all of their things going on, and the big knights were so overcosted that they were difficult to justify when you could run 2 War Dogs in their place. That has changed rather drastically. We have had our War Dogs go from toughness 10 to toughness 9. They've added on a couple of extra wounds to make up for this. The Brigand and the Carnivore no longer hit on 2s. They now hit on 3s, which keeps them in line with everyone else. And they all lost the keyword to be battle line units, meaning you're forced to only be able to take 3 of each instead of 6. The War Dog Stalker also lost the character keyword, so he's now just a regular dude. Which means in most of the detachments, you have to run at least one Questoris or larger knight. In my opinion, this is healthy. What isn't healthy is what they did to the poor Brigand. He was the strongest of the War Dogs, but he is probably one of the weakest now. They completely reworked his ability, essentially gave him -1 to hit regularly, and because of the lack of his ability, he's also essentially lost an AP on all of his weapons.
What was his previous ability?
If he was shooting at the closest eligible target, you got +1 AP for that shot.
Yeah, he's worse now.
Yeah. So instead of having like an AP2 chain cannon, it's now AP1, for instance. His new ability is that if he makes a ranged attack on someone on an objective marker, you get to ignore cover.
Yay.
Yay.
How often is the objective marker loaded up with cover?
Not always.
Yeah, I could see this guy being buffed soon.
He needs something, but I don't know if they will after what has been a very Brigand-focused 10th edition so far. Like, I'm not mad that he kind of just takes a back seat. I would have liked for his ability to focus more on the fact that he's pretty anti-tank, with some ability to do some, like, anti-infantry. So maybe having, like, a hybrid kind of ability, maybe does something against tanks and then does something else against infantry would have been a better way to put this guy. I mean, it's okay. All of the war dogs have a very similar stat line with 9 toughness, 14 wounds, and a movement speed of 12 inches, which is huge.
It's very scary. It's so much more than you think it is.
These guys get around, and this whole army gets around the board very well.
12 inches is just unethical.
It sure is. The Brigand is meant to be your war dog gun platform. It's equipped with a chain gun and a melter gun, and its whole purpose is to run around and shoot things. At 140 points it does that, but outside of that, it's not particularly fancy. When we compare it to the War Dog Huntsman, who has gone from being one of the worst knights to one of the best in the War Dog range.
Yeah, I can see why.
He's had a glow up. Same stat line, still has that melter gun, but now instead of the chain gun, he has a chain talon, or a big old chainsword on his arm. His design is to be your anti-tank guy now. He rerolls wounds against monsters and vehicles, and with the Brigand taking such a big hit, this guy just suddenly is like, oh, he's a real option. Especially when his top-mounted weapon is also a melter gun. So he runs around with 2 different melter guns, which is pretty cool. War Dog Huntsman?
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Yeah, I would take that guy. Put him in the basket.
But, again, he's in the Armiger kit.
The Huntsman is... So, the Chain Talon and the Melter Gun are Imperial Knights style. You don't have to chop and change between the kits.
No. He's essentially the Warglaive from the Imperial Knights Codex.
Right. Got it.
On the same page, we have the War Dog Executioner. This is your long-range gun platform. He is your 2 autocannons. I like to use this guy as your backline objective holder for the most part. He has a 48-inch range, so he can at least shoot from a bit further back than most of your knights that are stuck in like the 18-inch range sort of area. But his whole purpose is to kind of finish things off once everyone else has had their turn. His ability allows him to hit on 2s if the enemy unit is below half strength, and if he kills a unit, he forces battle shock tests on anyone within 3 inches of them. So it doesn't come up often, but it's kind of neat. You know, you get to that point where they're getting low and you just need a little bit more damage, and then this guy comes along and finishes them off. It's also the only war dog that gets a chance to hit on 2s, which is a very neat idea, even if there is a little bit of work around to get there.
This will come up again, but I'm a big fan of Executioner plus the Delirium Aura, combined with some melee war dogs nearby what Execution is shooting.
For sure. There's some really interesting potential synergy with this. You get this weird situation where, you know, you run in with your your Huntsman. He doesn't quite finish off the Rhino that everyone just got out of. The Executioner shoots the Rhino off the board. It explodes because it has Deadly Demise, dealing damage to the dudes that had just got out. Then they have to make a battle shock test at -2 because you've got that Huntsman nearby, and then they fail their battle shock test and then take mortal wounds. Like, there's some really cool potential synergies where this guy's... It's neat, and while it might not come up often, you're going to feel so good when you double Deadly Demise a unit that just got out of a transport.
You spend all game or all week just like lining up all the dominoes and you go to like grab your camera just waiting, and it might happen, it might not, but if it does, it's just
it's a hell of a story, right?
Yeah, I've watched a couple of your Codex Chaos Knights games at games night. It's terrifying, and you didn't even do the Executioner blow up domino.
Yeah, but I like that it's there. I like when armies give you this idea that, you know, there's this one line of play that if it happens will look absolutely magical, but you're not going to have to deal with it every game.
I love options. It's really sad that the Brigand doesn't have a very strong identity, but it's so nice to see that there are a couple of play lines now. Thank you, Codex.
Yeah. Then we have the Carnivore. This is the melee war dog.
This is the white girl of the Chaos Knights.
This is the guy that everyone wants to know.
Yeah.
So,
Carnivore. Can you tell by the name?
Yeah, right. His ability is rerolls, advance, and charge rolls. Nice and simple. This guy goes ham. He also has 2 extra movement on top of any of the other war dogs. So he's at 14 inches with reroll advances or charges. This is your turn 1, I'm in your face guy.
Boy howdy, does it happen, Jonny?
Boy howdy. On top of that, they have simplified this guy's melee weapons. He used to have 2 melee weapons with 2 profiles each, and you used to have to choose one of the 4, and there were really only 2 options. What they did is they got rid of the ones no one was using, and kept the ones that people were using. So now you have your essentially 2 profiles instead of 4 to choose from, and it's your anti-tank or your horde clearance. On top of that, he also gained keywords, and keywords are rare in Chaos Knights. His melee weapons all have sustained hits, 1, by default. I love it.
So good.
There's a reason that this is the guy people are bringing the most of still. Guy is good. You cannot complain.
Very simple, does what it says on the tin. I'm noticing the next one also has some melee potential, the Stalker.
So this is your hybrid knight. Hybrid war dog is the best way to put it. He has kind of like multiple options to choose from. You can either run 2 melee weapons or a ranged and a melee or 2 ranged weapons. Like this is originally the character for the war dogs, but they removed the character keyword but kept the versatility a little bit. They also didn't change his abilities, so he still has the, if you are attacking a unit that doesn't have any friends within 6 inches, you get to add 1 to the wound roll. Just like his name implies, the idea is he stalks around the battlefield, picking off isolated targets. For this reason, I tend to run him with a melee and a ranged weapon, just so that whatever situation he finds himself in, he is okay. They did remove the Slaughter Claw's sweep profile, so I tend to prefer bringing him with the Chain Talon just because of the versatility. This is your I need something for any situation knight, in my opinion.
Did we want to talk about a very particular detachment and talk about that now while we're hot off the War Dogs?
Sure, we can mix things up a bit. There is a detachment for specifically War Dog spam. So it's still an option if that's what you wish to do. If you've already got your 14 War Dogs because you were playing pre-Codex, you still have the ability to do it. But now it's kind of better than ever. Do you want to talk through the detachment rule for us and go through that and we'll see what it does?
As always, no matter what detachment you're playing, you get to keep your army rule as like ability 1. Depending on what your playstyle is with the units you want to do, you have detachments. Detachments is like rule number 2. You get it as well. Houndpack Lance is our little detachment for War Dogs, and their detachment rule is marked prey. And it looks like a little bit of a oath the moment kind of thing, you know? At the start of the command phase, you pick a unit that you're up against, and then those War Dogs are going to get a glorious sustain hits 1 against that unit.
On everything.
But that's not all. Keywords, a sort of, if you will, like a tweak to the datasheets as written. Simply by playing Houndpack Lance, you now must include War Dog units to play this. The War Dogs will gain battle line, and then when mustering the army, up to 3 of the War Dogs, 3. You don't go up to 3. You have to pick 3 War Dogs, and they are going to gain character keywords, which means that those War Dogs will now be able to pick up enhancements, which are kind of like war gear, bridging that gap between a generic character model and that big epic named dude. They're pretty good.
Cool thing is, it's not restricted to which war dogs are characters, so you can have your carnivore be a warlord. Instead of it being the stalker, you can bring your huntsman in and give it an ability. You get to choose who is getting these enhancements, which I think is super cool. And the enhancements themselves are fun. We have the return of the index Panoply of the Cursed Knight, meaning incoming damage is at -1 AP.
Armor of Content.
A good little buff. You've got the Loping Predator, which gives assault to ranged weapons. So if you've got that stalker running around, or even the brigand, you can have that assault on there, so you can make sure you're getting around the board and doing what you've got to do. You've got the Final Howl Aura. Key thing with auras is Dominion will increase them by 3.
Ooh, yeah.
Which basically gives it the Questoris Knights War Dog buff ability, which is just re-rolling wound rolls for nearby war dogs. And you've also got the Prey Slayer's Mantle to give them that super heavy keyword and make them able to walk through walls.
You're slapping that on a carnivore, aren't you?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And he's just running in a straight line. Yeah, it's actually really cool. I do really like what they've done with this detachment.
Will you play this, do you think?
Don't have enough war dogs to play this at a big game, but I could see me playing this in a 1K game.
But you don't have to take just war dogs.
Yeah, but when you start to look at the stratagems, you're gonna want to.
Sure, but you're not penalized if
you're not penalized,
bring big
no.
knights aside from the can't chuck the various stratagems on them.
As long as you run at least 3 war dogs, because that is the restriction in the detachment rule.
I am really enjoying, by the way, all the little flavor text that are being added to the stratagems, the enhancements. That Panoply of the Cursed Knight, I really enjoyed the little flavor text that it's the Panoply is a cursed armor set of a knight that was betrayed by the war dogs. Yeah, it's cool stuff.
Yeah,
very very thematic. But what do we got for strats, my dude?
Stratagems. You have a 2 CP stratagem, which is the Vox Howl, which is in shooting or fighting phase, enemy units make a battle shock test, which I think is really cool that you can do that out of the battle shock phase. And then any war dogs you have that are nearby that are battle shocked have a chance to do another test to no longer be battle shocked. It's not super powerful, but it could be very swingy in that objective control game where it's suddenly flipping the switch on who is controlling an objective. On top of that, we have the Hungry for Combat, which allows 2 of your war dogs that are fighting the same target in melee to crit on 5s, so getting those sustained hits even more. You've got the Animalistic Rage. Very flavorful names for this hunting pack of dogs, right? Which is shooting or fight phase. When one of your war dogs is destroyed, you get to shoot or fight back before your deadly demise goes off. So it's kind of like this fight on death / shoot on death stratagem.
I love shoot on death. That's good.
Shoot on death is always fun, right? The last line of text in this one is, you get to consolidate before demising.
Oh, true. Yeah.
Which I think is super cool. You get to shoot something down, walk closer, and then blow up. I think it's so cool. It's such a neat little stratagem.
That's very fun. Obviously, you've got a couple that aren't, limited to the fight phase, but a lot of these things do have a little bit of that fight phase synergy, or a lot actually. Cunning Hunter, you can fall back. Normally, if you fall back with a unit, you can't shoot and charge. You're penalized from moving out of that engagement. Cunning Hunter says, oh, well, who cares? Keep going, Warthog. Harrying Hounds, a reactive move. A lot of, armies have stratagem like this tucked away somewhere. Chaos Knights obviously have this with their War Dog pack, so you might end up with a harrying hound, just all of a sudden a bit closer towards something, a bit too close for comfort. And then wrapping us out, we have the Encircling pack, which is my favorite, both for the flavorful naming there, but at the end of your opponent's fight phase, if a War Dog's no longer in engagement range, you can just take them off the battlefield into strategic reserves. So it's a lot of like, if my War Dog's been killed in the combat phase, oh well, they can fight on death. Oh, they're, not in a good position. Oh well, I'll just redeploy them. Like, there's a lot of cool stuff here.
Yeah, it's neat. Having a dedicated War Dog pack detachment is exactly what I wanted, to try and pull them away from doing it in every game, while still having that like power and fun that came with being able to do it if you've got the units. That's War Dog's done. We won't bother talking about Forge World models, but the War Dog Moirax does technically exist. You can look into that of your own regard if that's something you're interested in.
Yeah, Moirax is fun. There's a couple of, you sort of got to look at the expanded history of Warhammer a little bit when it comes to the knights. There are a couple of classifications of knights, such as the Acastus, which were made by Forge World many years ago to be used in much larger, modified games of 40k. They're really hard to actually acquire nowadays. Most people just print their own, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, Johnny. And, they're not really designed for the game anymore. They are relegated to PDF format stat blocks that are available on the Warhammer websites as well. But a couple of them have been resurfacing into the modern era via the Horus Heresy game with the Cerastus Knights. We'll come around to them in a bit, the Cerastus Knights in particular. The Questoris and the Acastus, not part of today's lineup. Do we want to talk about the Abhorrents, Johnny?
We sure do. And you say that, but there is a Questoris Knight still in this list. Although technically most of the Abhorrents are Questoris pattern Knights.
They're just bad now.
No. The Questoris Knights are now great. What do you mean? They're fantastic.
No, I meant they're evil.
See, you can't just say bad in a discussion about Datasheets.
That's true. We'll cut me some slack. It's late.
So, similar to the way War Dogs work, the Chaos Knights work as a loadout-based system where most of the knights are a very similar body, just with different guns. So we will be talking about the Questoris Knights to start with, which are the Abhorrent variant, and these are all bar one built out of one kit. We have the Knight Abhorrent, the Knight Desecrator, the Knight Rampager, and the Knight Ruinator. So the Ruinator is the newest model on the block. Previously, before this loadout was released, we won't talk about that. Different day for that discussion. The kit was called the Knight Abhorrent kit and was focused very much around that psychically infused knight. So we will start with him. I think he's the most unique of the Questoris Knights, and that's as good a reason as any to have a discussion about him. The Knight Abhorrent is in a very weird and interesting place, in my opinion, in the army. It is the cheapest of the Abhorrent Knights and has a very weird casino-y sort of gameplay style, which is unfortunate.
Isn't that your favorite?
Casino cannons? Yes, but we'll get to the casino cannon. The Knight Abhorrent and all of the Questoris Knights have a very similar stat line with 11 toughness, 26 wounds, 10-inch movement, and that 3-up and 5-up invuln save against ranged attacks. The problem that you end up with this guy is his lack of AP. He has some very cool weapons with the Volkite Combuster being this big, like, plasma cannon with strength 12 and devastating wounds, but 0 AP.
Yeah, it's a weird one.
Which means that you've now got an anti-tank gun that has no AP on it, and you're kind of relying on the devastating wounds to get a lot of damage through. He does have a tail, though, so you get 2 melee weapons because it's got extra attacks on it, which these do have a little bit of AP, and not bad in melee, honestly. Like, 3s to hit, you've got like 8 and 10 strength, you've got a bit of AP in there and some damage. Like, this guy punches okay, shoots inconsistently, but the real reason you're bringing him is his psychic abilities. His psychic abilities are actually pretty good, and a good reason to bring one, or some people are bringing more of this knight, just to blanket the field in these like battle shock tests, and he cooperates very well with the army rule, probably better than most of the others, because of his vortex terrors. So at the start of the shooting phase, you choose an enemy unit nearby, and they make a battle shock test. Nice and simple, but remember, we're at -2 to battle shock potentially. There's the potential for hitting easier and all of that comes from those battle shock tests. And then on top of that, at the end of the movement phase, you get to mortal wound bomb everyone around you, which is sick.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. I like this guy a lot.
And as I said, he's the cheapest of the knights by about 30 points. So him plus an enhancement in most detachments is the equivalent of these other knights. Super cool. I like him.
Yeah, personally, I think he is almost instrumental in list building. I would go out on a limb, like if you actually planning to lean into the army rule, like you realistically should have an Abhorrent.
Yeah, he is very, very solid.
Like I started my, sample list of Chaos Knights with one of these guys because I looked through the Datasheets and like, oh, that's synergistic as heck. That guy. We'll start there.
He's kind of the epitome of Chaos Knights. Like, he's exactly what you expect to find in a Chaos Knights army.
He's the cover art, isn't he?
He is the cover art. And what a sick cover art we have.
The other guys aren't on the cover, though. Do our other fellows of similar stature, do they have much going for them besides the loadouts, in your opinion? Or is it mainly a loadouts game?
It is, for the most part, a loadouts game. You've got a knight that focuses more on like anti-tank. You've got one that's a melee knight. You've got one that is more the hybrid sort of play style of deciding what you want to do, but people have solved his loadout pretty well. And then you've got the Ruinator. Yeah,
you've got him at the back, digging in the dirt, eating the mud.
Yeah, so all of the other knights have a War Dog aura. So this is an ability that buffs nearby War Dogs. And again, if you've got that Dominion buff up, it's at 12 inches instead of 9 inches. They are okay. It doesn't, in my opinion, come up a lot because you need to spread out over the battlefield. But when it does come up, you're like, cool, neat. We have the Desecrator. He is your stereotypical what you see in all the imagery kind of knight, that is with the big laser destructor and a melee weapon. He has devastating wounds whenever he makes a ranged attack against vehicles and monsters, and hits at range on 2s. That's kind of his whole thing. His War Dog aura is that he allows War Dogs to shoot and reroll hit rolls of 1. You have the Rampager, which is kind of the opposite. This is your melee-focused knight. He has 2 inches extra movement, because why not? Sustained hits on all of his weapons in melee, and when he charges, his melee weapons get devastating wounds. This guy is sick. I love Spicy. The Rampager. This is in my opinion, your distraction piece, and that's kind of how I use him. His job is to run up the board, lock someone up, and probably die in a round or 2, but slow your opponent down enough, because if they don't deal with him, he's just going to be a problem, because he hits like a truck.
Yeah, the Warp Strike Claw is pretty spicy.
How do you feel about 20 strength with AP3 and 8 damage, just coming in with sustained hits and devastating wounds. This dude mows.
Because it's a pretty killy kind of game, like I get what you're saying, like he'll probably go down and around, but if you really did want to commit to the bit and try and take, something decent down, there's this really cool image where like each of the, bigger knights walking their dog, out into the park, let's say, and bring a carnivore with a rampager, and hey, you might just clear up, what you're going for. Like each of these big knights seem to have a mini-me that's designed to partner up with them if you wanted to.
And this guy ain't going down easy, and he ain't going down alone.
Nah. Who else do we got? Is it the Despoiler?
Well, we're going to talk about the Ruinator first, because this is the same box that you can build from.
True.
This is the new guy on the block. He's the most expensive of the new knights in terms of points. I haven't done a lot of testing with this guy. He's kind of hybrid. He has the Fellbore, which is a big melee mining drill kind of weapon. Its strike profile has the anti-monster, anti-vehicle 2-up keywords. And then he has a flamethrower. I've never been a big fan of Chaos Knights with the flamethrower type weaponry, because it feels bad to be throwing 350 points at infantry, but I can see where he could potentially have some use in the right matchups, because if you're going up against a bunch of infantry, you probably want to be able to clear them out. It's just hard to justify that at a higher price point than the next knight we will talk about. But his abilities are at the start of the first battle round. He chooses a target in your opponent's army and gets to reroll wounds against them until they're destroyed, at which point you select a new one. It's kind of like this Oath of Moment-ish sort of thing, but you really have to plan ahead on where you want to go with it. And his aura is, unfortunately, the ability that they took off the War Dog Brigand.
Yep.
The idea being that this guy probably pairs up with the Brigand to give him his old ability back.
Couple of issues I'm having with the Ruinator, though. The Fellbore is designed so much for that anti-monster vehicle, but there's no clear way, maybe in the detachments, but like to give this guy dev wounds. Like he's super swingy with only 4 attacks of his big weapon.
The other problem I have is he's already at strength 14. Like anything smaller than a knight, he's already hitting on 3s. Wounding on 3s. It's only really against another Chaos Knight. And even then, like, they're only toughness 11.
It's a curious one.
If it also had dev wounds, it might be different, but yeah, it just doesn't feel like it does enough.
The Dark Flame Lance is very odd to me, because isn't there something about a model being like this size that they cannot overwatch? And that's like the key of like a torrent thing?
By default, you cannot overwatch with a Chaos Knight. I believe one of the detachments has a stratagem that allows you to overwatch with one weapon, but we will get to that when we get to that. But that brings us to the last of the Questoris Knights, which is the Despoiler. This guy is your Imperial Knights Questoris box model. He is your hybrid. I get weapons and I choose whatever I want.
Holy loadouts, Batman. Oh my
Remember,
God.
He only gets 3 weapons. Some of those are 2-in-1s, but because he is that loadout man, he has a bit of everything.
What is his aura ability, Johnny? His aura ability is called Dread Dominion.
It's a pretty... Yep, so that D names again, you know?
One of the army rules is Dominion.
Yeah. Another one is Dread.
Yeah.
His ability is that nearby war dogs have an extra leadership and an extra OC. Not huge, but again, it's kind of one of those things where you're like, oh, it happened to work. Cool, nice. And he also gets to reroll 1 hit roll or 1 wound roll when resolving attacks, which doesn't feel great, but better than nothing, I guess.
That's for the thermal cannon, yeah.
Most of the community will agree that this guy with 2 Gatling cannons is one of the scariest models in this army.
Yeah, I could see that.
Because you send 36 shots downrange with 2 AP and 2 damage each. And again, this is if you need that horde clear that you were thinking about putting that flamer in with the Ruinator, this guy's 15 points cheaper.
Yeah, why would you be worried about the Ruinator being too much of a threat to infantry when the spoiler exists?
Right. And it's just got more possibilities. Even if you don't take 2 Gatling cannons, I quite often run with like 1 Gatling cannon and 1 battle cannon, just because the battle cannon also sends 2d6 plus 6 potential shots downrange with blast.
Yikes.
So if you are a bit closer, it's not a bad option either.
Yes, this guy's just good. Good gun
This
platform.
guy is good, yes. And that definitely feels like what he's meant to be. He can technically take melee weapons, but if you're at that point, you're probably using the despoiler instead. But this guy, on top of having like 2 Gatling cannons, you also get 2 flamers if they do get close. So you're already doing exactly what the other knight does for cheaper. And on top of that, you get a choice of either the Demon Breath Melter Gun that he has on his nipple, or his top-mounted weapon, which is either one of 2 rocket pods or autocannons, depending on what you need that day. He's so versatile. And I'm a big fan of the Rune Spear rocket pods as like a extra piece of heavy-hitting damage that you can throw out. This guy's just good. This guy is seeing a lot of tournament play.
Really pushes a couple of those other options bit to the side with this big old sign. Pick me, I'm great.
Yeah, it definitely feels that way. And if you run the Grotmus Detachment, which we will not be talking about today, but it is something key to note, he can be crazy. You can send that Gatling cannon with 36 shots, AP2, 2 damage, sustained hits, and lethal hits, all rolled into one neat little package for the mere cost of somewhere in the realm of up to 6 cultists.
Yeah, we talked about that once upon a time. We did a Grotmus list building episode. We went in depth on the despoiler love.
But we do have to mention it here because it is a thing. But that is the only thing I will say about the Grotmus Detachment is it still works, it's still good, it's still scary. All right, we have one more Abominant Knight to talk about, and then we can talk about your Cerastus Knights that I know you're keen for.
Hell yeah.
We will talk about the Knight Tyrant. My boy got hurt real bad.
Is it a Questoris?
It is not a Questoris Knight. It is a Dominus Knight. They're essentially the Questoris Knight on crack. They're meant to be like the bigger gun platform version of a Questoris Knight, with so many guns that they need a second reactor to power it all.
You love this guy. You really, really love this guy.
Partially because I've got a cool little kit bash that I've done with him, but also, this guy is your casino cannon swingy guy. You have one of 2 profiles. Do you want lots of blast weapons, or do you want a blast weapon and a flamer? They really hurt my boy.
I don't know. What do I want? What do I want, Johnny?
They cut his points significantly. He got a points cut of over 100 points. He went from being over 500 points to under 400 points. And boy oh boy did they have to adjust to manage. He is now toughness 12 instead of toughness 13. And he has 28 whole wounds now. That is a lot of wounds.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Sure is, Johnny.
On top of that, he still has his aura, which gives war dogs near him the benefit of cover. Not going to come up super often, because it's pretty easy to get the benefit of cover when your models are so big. But I really like the anti-deep strike bubble, especially in our little meta, that no reinforcements within 12 has tripped people up more often than they would like to say.
I don't know, and we're back. We were talking about the Knight Tyrant, something casino cannon, and they nerfed him.
They sure did. Mainly, they nerfed the Warp Shock Harpoon, which I thought was a really interesting thing to nerf considering most of the time people didn't run this knight or this gun. Your two options were to take the Volcano Lance and the Ectoplasma Decimator, which are your big super cannon sort of blast weapons. Or you could take the Warp Shock Harpoon and the Flamethrower, which is... The Flamethrower is not that good because you don't really want to get that close. But they did a few things to the Warp Shock Harpoon that just brought it way down in power level from the huge, devastating 50% chance to maybe go off weapon. They removed its anti-keywords, added the blast keyword, meaning it can't be used in melee anymore. So if this thing does get locked up, it's locked to just a flamethrower. They also increased the number of attacks from 1 to D3 to try and compensate for this, and reduced its range by 6 inches from 18 to 12, meaning you have to get very close now to do anything.
For the flamer.
No. The flamer's still 18.
I know, I'm joshing you.
It's sad, and it now just takes extra steps for the Warp Shock Harpoon to get far, but it is still a strength 24, 6 AP, 12 damage attack. So it's still terrifying. It's just not as explosive as it used to be.
Yeah, before it was it borderline oppressive, or was it just oppressive? Because, at least for you, you had great success.
The problem is, its points costs were so ridiculous that it wasn't worth bringing the knight for this gun. Whereas I guess now at 395 points, this gun now costs you a significantly cheaper number of points. And in one of the detachments, you can do some fun stuff with it. So the guy's okay, and he's definitely playable, but he's still more expensive than any of the other Questoris Knights. But I don't mind him. He's cool. I like him. He's fun. And that brings us to...
my babies.
The last pattern of knight we're going to talk about, being the Cerastus Knights. What do you know about the Cerastus Knights?
From a sort of a lore perspective, Jonny, the Cerastus Knights are one of the sort of original sort of patterns of knights, you know, way back when there were multiple variants of knights. However, as wars go on and you lose Forge Worlds, you lose a bit of the variance in what you can build and what exists. But with the resurgence of Horus Heresy bringing things into sort of, you know, the 30k, 10,000 years prior, bringing that back into the spotlight, we're getting a bit more of a refresh, quite literally, with some of the Cerastus Knights for that game mode having, you know, new plastic versions of their once resin kits. And there is rule support.
Yes.
We mentioned earlier before the Acastus, they, you know, don't even worry about them. Before when I said we weren't going to talk about the Questoris, I meant the Magira and the Styrics, which are a Mechanicum Questoris. I forgot to mention the Mechanicum part.
Yes.
They are also sort of in the halls of resin fame, and they're not quite here. We do have one of the Cerastus Knights that is yet to be brought over, which is the Atropo.
The one everyone's playing.
Yeah, which everyone's playing somehow. There are 4 Cerastus Knights, but, you know, to a, you know, more of a cash player who's walking into the shop and seeing the 40k section, good chance you're not even seeing a Cerastus Knight. Maybe there's like one in the Horus Heresy section, and you're like, oh, okay, but that says Horus Heresy, and you'll just pivot. But the Cerastus Knights, for people who are in the know, are the hotness. In particular, the Atropo, which you can't actually buy, you gotta get the resin one or print your own, Jonny?
This is correct.
Yeah, we have the Cerastus Knight Lancer, which is my favorite. The Cerastus Knight Lancer, you know, it's got one job. It is going to charge other knights. It's got, you know, barely a ranged stack. It is a melee, you know, shot to the heart. It is going to have an ability to tank shock for free, so you're doing mortal wounds on its charge. Free. War Dog models nearby have assault, but it's shock lance. 5 attacks, hits on 2s, strength 20 at its, strike profile. It's devastating. If that gets through, you're losing a knight. Like, it's a void dragon wearing a knight costume.
It is. And one key thing to note about the Lancer as well is it's the only Chaos Knight that has a blanketed 4-up invuln save. All the other knights are stuck with their invuln turning off in melee, and that's due to his sick as shield. This guy is, this is your big, I want to get in your face and kill something big. This guy's sick. And a very, very cool looking model.
Yeah, when they brought that guy out for Horus Heresy, I was a little, slack jaw. I'm like, oh my god, that's a beautiful model. That is my favorite Chaos Knight. Visually, Atropos has a soft spot in my heart for what it can do.
But this guy looks the coolest.
He does look the coolest. I think huge shield and spear kinda wins out for me, but I love what the Atropos can do. And it is damage. It doesn't matter if this guy is at ranged or in melee. This guy gets +1 to the hit roll against monsters and vehicles, and if it's Titanic or Towering, which knights are, add 1 to the wound rolls.
Yeah, man.
Something for the War Dogs is re-rolling hits, if also targeting
Titanic and Towering.
Which is why these guys are everywhere in the tournament scene to go up into the mirror matches.
Yep.
But the Atropos has 2 arms, each is a weapon its own. It's not even holding, it just is weapons. We got its las cutter and its singularity cannon. The singularity cannon is exactly as other weapons have been, limited shots but super high package with some blast. But its las cutter will shock you with its sustained hits both in the melee and at the range. And it's not, doesn't have secret sauce. It's just damaging. So much damage.
Yeah, it's just, do you want to take down a big boy while still having the versatility to take down little boys if you need to? Because you can put it in low intensity mode, which doubles the number of attacks at the cost of half of the strength and half of the damage. So you still can deal with a squad if you need to. And the Graviton Singularity Cannon, you can definitely be like, I need to try and push through some devastating wounds at the cost of it being hazardous. Like this guy is, I want to kill you and your big thing. He is awesome. I really, really like this knight. So much so that I 3D printed my own, because you cannot purchase a Knight Atropos in a box outside of resin, which feels weird because the other 3 you can.
Yeah, but when they brought out the Lancer, they didn't have a box for the Acheron or the Castigator.
They came out slightly later.
Are they a dual kit? Dual kit, also labeled under the Horus Heresy. I don't think they're as good, rules-wise, as the other 2, but worth mentioning nonetheless. The Acheron kind of feels like, in my opinion, what the Ruinator wants to be. It has a flamer, it has a melee, which is fine. It's another of those sort of chain fists, big punchy glove. Do you strike? Do you sweep? But its abilities really speaks to me. It's it shoots
cool
something
abilities
with its flame cannon, and that unit no longer has benefit of cover for the face. So you send them in first, light up a building, and then maybe some of your weaker guns finish them off, because benefit of cover gives a unit a little save bonus. There's also its, War Dog ability, which is War Dogs in engagement range of it inflict battle shock tests. Yippee!
So you could put this guy right behind your line of carnivores that have just run in and just force a bunch of battle shock tests.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where it's like, if it comes up, you're like, hey, that was pretty cool. But it's not going to come up every game. But with the Flamer, you want him there anyway.
And then we have the Castigator.
Yeah, the Castigator, who I think's okay. It's a cool looking model. You got to give him that. A knight with a big old sword is pretty cool.
Oh yeah, I love how Castigator looks.
Yeah.
Really do. I'm a little unsure if you would take him over a Despoiler if you're looking for the weaponry.
I don't think so, because this guy costs more points and has a very similar sort of stat line.
what I could imagine Castigator being good into via its ability to Storm of Bolts. You shoot something, but then the enemy unit is suppressed.
So they hit worse.
Yeah, they do that. It excludes monsters in vehicles, so I would be extremely hesitant/reluctant to bring this into a mirror match. But there's a few, units in the game that really like to go and kill vehicles. Eldari's got fire dragons, Space Marines have eradicators, you get the gist. This can mitigate a bit of that threat, but I think you're better off taking a different knight, if I'm being honest.
Here's my big problem with the Castigator. Your effect is in the shooting phase if you hit an enemy unit that isn't a monster or a vehicle, correct? If you're taking a 355-point knight that is designed to do shooting shenanigans, do you think 18 attacks, AP2, 2 damage, twin-linked isn't going to get the job done? It's a lot of bullets coming down range. Even if you don't finish that unit off, they're not really doing much anyway at that point because they've lost quite a few dudes. It just feels like it's a little win more.
Yeah. The Atropos is great value. The Lancer is just good at what it does. The Cascade and the Acheron seem like they were just thrown in for good measure.
They had to come up with rules, right?
Yeah, because someone's going to go and buy them and be like, can I use this? And the game designer's like, yeah, I guess. Have fun.
Right? But that's it for datasheets. That was a lot for such an army with not a lot of datasheets.
Well, you're more in tune with these and you can offer a bit more insights than, if we were to pick up like Imperial Guard, we'd be like, I guess that's a good unit. Next, that one's okay.
By not having a lot of units, we did manage to get through all of them, whereas normally we just pick and choose a couple.
That is true.
The standouts, whereas this is a bit easier to run through the whole list. But that leaves us with 3 detachments left to talk about. Yeah,
it's kind of why I haven't pulled us into them earlier, because I'm like, there's only 3 more. There's only 3 more detachments. Pick one, mate.
We'll start with the Traitoris Lance. This is the rework of the detachment from the Index. She's new and improved and, frankly, just straight up nice.
She's
just good. This is designed to work perfectly with your army rule, and all it says is that at the start of the first battle round, after you select your dread abilities, you get to pick one more.
Mm-hmm.
The thing I really like about this is turn 1, you can roll for 2, and if you don't get the one that you did want, you can just get it. And if you did, you get to choose something else. It just really brings that army rule into play so much quicker and so much more lethally. I dig it. It's cool.
Yeah, with this one, you're not going for that stat checky, what's the best 3 Atropos list I can throw at somebody. It's, I'm going to bring, a balanced bunch and lean into my army rule. It's good.
And you see it in the fact that, all of its enhancements are they're just kind of good. It's not bad.
Battle Shock
shenanigans. And Dread ability shenanigans.
Yeah, you got Malevolent Heraldry, which you can re-roll the Dread abilities. Let's say you roll a duplicate. Oh no.
Re-roll one of them.
I have to take nothing. Oh look, no, I got the Heraldry. I can re-roll one of them.
Or if it's turn 3 and you've already, you rolled the same numbers you did turn 1, you can re-roll both, so that you can guarantee that you get something. You've got Nightmare's Master, which was pulled from the Index and renamed, which is you force a battle shock test in the fight phase on an enemy, on each unit that you're in engagement range with. You've got Tyrant's Shadow, which is a rework of the sticky objectives that we had in the Index. So you're starting to see a lot of those Index shenanigans. And then the Veil of Medrengard, which is actually really good, which just gives your Chaos Knight a 4-up invulnerate range and a 5-up invuln in melee, allowing you to stick this on your Rampager or your Ruinator if you picked one up. just to make sure that even in melee, they're safe from all of the AP shenanigans.
Have you read Vale of Medrengard's fluff bit?
I haven't, but I know it mentions a certain someone that I'm a fan of.
Yeah,
it does. Perturabo.
There you go.
Yeah, and then even the enhancements feel very similar for the most part to what we saw in the Index, and really harkens to that mixed play style of having War Dogs and Chaos Knights running around.
You mean strats?
Stratagems, those ones.
Strats,
you know what
detachments, enhancements, army rules, stat sheets.
The keyword game, you know?
Keywords.
So we've got the return of A Long Leash and Terror Shades from the Index. We've got Disdain for the Weak that has come back. And then on top of that, we've got a few new ones just to like round out and replace the ones that got moved to other detachments. So you can give one of your Chaos Knights the stealth keyword and benefit of cover. You can improve the AP of melee weapons equipped by your model if you decide that you want to really go ham this turn. And then it also has the when you destroy a enemy unit, they do a battle shock pulse and cause battle shock to people around them. This is really cool, and you also get the return of the Imperious Advance, allowing your War Dogs to charge through walls.
Just generally good stuff.
Good stuff detachment, and your mixed list is where it focuses. After that, do you have anything else you want to say about the detachments and Traitoris Lance in general?
Nothing different to what you've had to say. It's just good stuff. It's always good to have a mixed, list. A lot of detachments like Houndpack will focus a specific part of the faction. It's always good to see that the general detachment's actually pretty fun and engaging. I'm a big fan of the Paragons of Terror, even though I feel like Paragon's not quite the right word. Maybe a Renegades of Terror would be nice. But yeah, just tweaking and really hammering in the army rule. I'm a big fan of that, considering Battle Shock's a bit of a flimsy rule, but you can lock that down with this detachment, and I'm in on this one.
That takes us to the Infernal Lance.
Gambling.
Do you like gambling? The idea of this is we lean into the demonic possession of Chaos Knights. This focuses more on the pacts with the dark gods and that aspect of it, which in 40k translates to leadership tests versus mortal wounds to gain lethal hits or sustained hits, as we have seen in other armies' codexes as well.
Do you think that like 11th edition's going to add a few more keywords?
Mate,
There's
I don't
like
think
four.
they need to.
There's like 4 keywords. They don't need to. And we have been seeing some little flavors come about. But I wouldn't be surprised if they're like, oh my god, are people being bored of lethal hits or sustained hits? Let's add a few more.
Yeah, that's it, right?
Anyway.
So our detachment rule is the Malefic Surge. In your command phase, any amount of your Chaos Knights can make a Malefic Surge. What this translates to is they take a leadership test, and if they fail that leadership test, they suffer some mortal wounds. But then they get a token. They are empowered. And what this token does is you can spend it for a 1-phase boost, and you have 3 different options that you can use. You can allow them to add 3 to their movement, advance, and fallback move. You can, it's nice. It's okay. You get a little bit of a speed boost. You've got Diabolic Power, which is when you either shoot or fight, you can gain lethal hits or sustained hits until the end of the phase. And then you have the Unnatural Fortitude, which gives your model a 5-up invuln save and a Feel No Pain 6, making you a little tankier for that phase. It's alright. It's a little swingy, and there's definitely been cases of people on the internet having failed like every single leadership test and just taken a bunch of mortal wounds, and when you've only got such a limited number of units, those wounds start to add up. But
yeah, it's a bit of a sweaty detachment.
It is a bit of a sweaty detachment, and you can kind of see the potential Like, having which one of these abilities at the right moment is very handy. It feels weird if you're not rolling. It feels like you're wasting that whole detachment rule if you're not rolling your Malefic Surge for most of your knights, if not all of them, every single turn. And if you like the gambling that came with Dark Pacts in CSM, then this is right up your alley.
One thing I really like about detachments like this one, though, I've seen it a little bit with things like the Grotmus Librarius detachment. A lot of the enhancements that go on, characters in this detachment have a thing. Let's look at Blasphemous Engine, for example. You add 2 to the bearer's wound characteristics. That's great because it gives you a bit more wounds to actually chuck into the Malefic Surge. And then you can re-roll that leadership test if you fail it. The other 3 enhancements do what I love to call what did I call it the other day? There's a second part, essentially, to the thing.
Yeah.
You get a buff, but if you're doing a very specific part of the detachment rule, you get a secondary buff. Knight Diabolus, for example, you improve the weapon skill characteristics of the melee weapons, but if you're using Diabolic Power, which is that lethal hits or sustained hits, you will gain Lance. There's a lot of little, as you pointed out, Jonny, you time it right, that go moment, and stacks on stacks.
Yeah, that's it, right? And you've got Flesh Metal Fusion, which is add 1 to the bearer's toughness characteristic. But if you use Unnatural Fortitude, you get to add 1 to your armor save versus damage 1 attacks. You've got the Bestial Aspect, which gives your ranged weapons assault. And if you use the Unholy Hunger, you get to ignore modifiers to your movement characteristic or advanced rolls, so you can make sure that your opponent can't slow you down. The Blasphemous Engine seems like a must-take, and the rest really just come down to which knight you're putting them on. Key thing to note, if you stick Knight Diabolus on your Rampager, it ain't doing much.
Oh, is that so? I thought you were going to say the Knight Lancer, because it already has Lance.
There's also that, right?
There's also that. How did the strats stack up?
So you do get the Profane Symbiosis, which allows you to get a second Malefic Surge, which is neat for if you end up having to use it to save your knight during your opponent's turn, and then you can get it on the fight phase, pretty good. You've got a Unleash Balefire, which essentially allows you to slow down an opponent if they fail a battle shock test after being shot at. They get -2 to their movement and charge rolls. For when you see that scary ballet unit coming for your precious tanks. You've got Hellforged Construction, which is just Armor of Contempt in the fight phase.
There's always one.
That it has to be somewhere in the army, right? You've got Warp Vision, which gives your ranged weapons the ability to ignore cover. I guess when it comes up, it'll come up. You've got the Corrupting Taint, which just feels like a bad word to say.
Nah, it makes sense.
If you activate your Malefic Surge, you can sticky an objective, which is a weird timing for that to happen.
It's a really key stratagem for this detachment, though, isn't it?
You really want to make sticky objectives are very strong in Chaos Knights in general because you are such an elite army. And then you've got the Diabolic Bulwark, which is a 4-up invulnerate ranged.
Yeah, those last two are chef's kiss.
The stratagems in all the detachments feel very good, and you can really see how far Codex writing has come over the course of the edition. And I think that takes us to the last of the detachments. This is my jam. I'm so excited.
I knew you would be just waiting, just biding your time till we got to the Lords of Dread, which I find more enticing than the last one, actually, as well.
Hey, you like big knights?
Yeah, I sure do, mate.
You want some more big knights?
I love some more big knights.
What are war dogs? Who gives a fuck? We're here for big
get
knights.
Get them out of here. We just want big boys. We just want big boys, mate.
Lords of Dread is your I like big knights and I cannot lie detachment. Your detachment rule is Tyrannical Court. You have OC2 extra on all of your Chaos Knight character models. so all of the big knights. And once per battle round, you can use the Claimed for the Dark God stratagem for 0, which we will get to when we talk about the stratagems, but it's your sticky objectives.
Hell yeah!
Unique to 40k 10th edition, you have 6 enhancements to choose from instead of 4.
I'm noticing themes between these. There's curiously one for
each of the 4, one for the Mechanicum, and then one for Undivided. So we have
Be'lakor,
the Throne Mechanicum of Skulls, because this is your Khorne one, which gives you reroll charge rolls, and once per game, you can charge and advance and charge. You stick this on your Rampager, and you go brr. I like Throne Mechanicum of Skulls. We have the Blade of Celerity. This gives your ranged weapons assault and a once per game fights first ability. This is your Slanesh one. You stick this on your hybrid knights, like your Desecrator or your Atropos, or, something along those lines where you want to shoot on your way in, and if someone does happen to get into melee when you're not ready for it, you can fight first. It's your protective, almost. Warpborn Stalker. This is your Be'lakor shenanigans, where you can give a Chaos Knight Deep Strike, and once per game, you can uppy-downy it as well. This is your Tyrant's best friend. No, it's not always the Tyrant. This is a very good stratagem for 10 points on anything. Like, a lot of people talk about putting on Rampages and Lances because you deep strike in, charge, kill something, then bounce back up and move. The thing I like is the utility of being able to put this on a Tyrant, because it has to get within 12 inches anyway to shoot. It's Warp Shock Harpoon. So you can deep strike in, shoot something off the board, and then you've got a 12-inch anti-deep strike aura around you. So to protect the counter. And then you can bugger off and go somewhere else.
I was just trying to figure out which one was for Be'lakor. I thought it was the last one, Blessing of the Dark Master.
I assumed that the Blessing of the Dark Master was our generic Chaos detachment.
Perhaps. I don't know. It's getting late. I'm losing it. But
sure is.
How do you top those? How do you top that deep strike one? Yeah.
At 10 points?
Yeah.
It's an auto include. Like, you gotta have it. Especially when it means you can put a knight into... Yeah. Like, it's so good. On top of that, we have the Putrid Carapace. We all know that Nurgle is here to show. This gives you +1 to your save characteristic, because it puts you to a save characteristic of a 2. And once per battle, you can regain some wounds. Very strong. Very good.
Love it.
Mirror of Fate is one I've been toying around with a little bit, and I think it has some interesting plays. This is your Tzeentchian one, of course, and has the most text of all of them, of course. Once per battle round, you can target the bearer's unit, or I guess model in this case, with a command reroll for free. Very good. In addition, once per battle, just after your opponent uses a stratagem, if the bearer is on the battlefield, this stratagem now costs 1 extra CP for the rest of the game for your opponent. I like the mind games.
Yeah, you had a great story in the last episode or 2. Yeah.
Oh, I like the mind games of this, and I've already got value out of it. You tell your opponent it exists. You threaten that if the second that they use command reroll, you're going to make it cost 2 more for them for the rest of the game. And you watch for the first couple of turns as they don't command reroll, and you just get free value. Then they finally do, and you're like, now's the time. And then my poor Khorne friend gets screwed over when he's only on 1 CP and can't command reroll to keep his Khan up that just rolled a 1 on his Return on Death ability. And you kill Khan. But just the threat. I love the threat of being able to be like, as soon as you use a stratagem, I'm going to make it cost more, and just let your opponent play mind games with themselves.
Very good. Big fan.
Yeah, no, this is great. This is fantastic. And then to finish it off, we have the Blessings of the Dark Master. The bearer gets the stealth ability, and after making a saving throw once per battle, you can change the damage characteristic of that attack to 0. It's good. It just means that your big shooting platform is going to be harder to kill. And in the counter mirror match, when they go to Warp Shock Harpoon you can say no.
Lots of good stuff on show here today.
Yeah, man.
The stratagems also seem pretty good.
Key thing to note, every single stratagem only affects character knights. So if you do happen to bring war dogs in your list because you've got leftover points, they have no stratagem support from this detachment whatsoever. And the stratagems are pretty fun. You've got Claimed for the Dark Gods, which is your sticky objectives. It gives the sticky objective a level of control of 5, meaning your opponent has to put significant resources just to break your hold, which I really like, instead of it just being until it's held. You've got Titanic Jewel for that mirror match. So you get reroll hit rolls of 1 and reroll wound rolls of 1 against monsters and vehicles. And if they're Titanic, you just get reroll hit rolls and wound rolls instead. Very good, very good. I like. You have Spiteful Demise, which, oh, what a name.
This is your favorite, isn't it?
It allows you to deadly demise on a 4 instead of a 6, which I think is just so much fun when your deadly demises are all like d6 plus 2 damage. It means that when you use that rampager to run in and they have to commit resources to killing it, and they finally do, and then it blows up and kills them. Very nice. You've got Trophy Hunter, which is the fight phase. You can get an extra 3 inches of consolidation. Nice and neat. Just allows your knights to move into the next pack.
Everything nice.
It's just nice. It's just good.
I'm enjoying this. It's all
you
good,
struggle
all
to
strong.
find one of the stratagems that isn't useful. Which, when you look at a lot of the earlier codexes, you'd be like, cool, I can use 2 of these stratagems, which I really enjoy. You've got Runes of Disdain, which is your 2 CP one, which is your opponent's shooting or fight phase. You can just say all of your damage is 1 less, just to really keep your knight alive. And you've got Crushed Like Vermin, which I think is really cool because it allows you to do mortal wounds if you walk over someone. You just get to walk over people, and on a 4-up, that enemy unit suffers a mortal wound, and if they lose a model because of that, they also get a battle shock test, which, funny enough, later in the game, could be more mortal wounds.
Absolutely.
And then you charge into them after walking over them and use tank shock and do more mortal wounds. Stacks on stacks on stacks.
Who needs a vehicle when you can just, walk over them, back it up, step on them, curb stomp them?
Yeah, man. This whole codex is a blast. It's so much fun. Everything feels useful. I'm so happy.
It's such a potent little package. Like 4 detachments, and you could say like variations on like 3 to 4 baseline units with, you know, the various loadout options. But they've done quite a lot.
They sure have. And there's a reason that Chaos Knights are one of the highest competitive win rates right now.
Yeah, they spook in me.
Yeah.
I don't mind being on holiday, Johnny.
Yeah, because you'll be back after they get torn down.
Not exactly that, but, I'll let other people be beaten down, and then I'll come in afterwards and try after I've had a few weeks to formulate a game plan. I definitely won't. I definitely won't be formulating a game plan.
I don't know if there is one other than just bring as many melters as you can fit in your list.
Yeah.
Which for you is a lot.
Good luck. Good luck for both of us. Who hits who first?
That really is it, right?
Quick, 2-minute pitch on what the Crusade stuff's about. Have you read much on it?
2 minutes is going to be hard.
Yeah, fair.
I
read it
for
though,
that
yeah?
reason. Oh yeah. For that reason, I think we should move to army lists and round out the episode, and we can maybe do a Crusade discussion at a later date.
Yeah.
Maybe
No
when
dramas.
we talk about a Crusade we start, because chances are I'll be playing them and I can go through it then. But the general gist is you're vying for faction-specific power amongst different entities, essentially. You've got the Dark Gods, you've got the Idolaters, and you've got the War Dogs. And you're trying to appease these three factions to get different buffs. That's the best way of putting it, as like a general overview. There is some very cool battle traits in this one where your battle traits work a little differently with knights because you lock your battle traits onto a certain part of the body. So you've got like legs and arms and torsos and head battle traits to really customize what your dudes can do. But yeah, don't want to go too much more in depth than that at this point in time. Have you read through it?
Yeah, a little bit. I just skimmed through it. There's no point in me reading every little perk and trait and stuff. But I really liked what I was seeing. I liked that the different 3 pathways you can go down limit you from, like, one might limit you out of another, for example, and you have to sort of determine like what your vibe is, what sort of rewards you want to go for. But I'm a huge fan more so of the traits per body part. Like I wasn't expecting that. That's really cool. I haven't looked too much into the actual rewards chains of things, but you'll tell me all about it one day.
Oh, sure will. Because this whole Crusade supplement could be an episode on its own. Like, there's that much in there.
Yeah, same with a couple of the others we've been noticing. Well, that I've been noticing, like
chunky.
Eldari's a bit similar. Eldari's got like a whole, like, observing the strands of fate and doing specific missions to prevent catastrophe. Like, there's a lot of, it's either like you're building something for your army or you're following a staggered set of agendas. They're doing some cool stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that brings us to army lists. Have you got an army list?
I sure do.
Because I also have one, and this army list is, let's be real, what I shall be running in the very near future.
Yeah. Mine's very quick if you want to get me out of the way.
We can talk about yours because I know it's going to be 3 Atropo.
No,
Oh, it's not.
I've never done a lot of that, like maxing out the coolest, strongest thing. Like, that's not really my cup of tea.
I thought it was more a case of I just like the Atropo, so I brought 3.
Well, I wanted, for how expensive these models are, I didn't want like half my list to be Atropo. Don't listen to the World Eaters episode. I don't know what Josh was on during that episode. How many Khorne Berserkers can I fit in? But I went Traitoris Lance. You might have picked up on my adoration for the army list Battle Shock synergy. My idea was the Battle Shock, like, get the most bang for the buck. And I'm not entirely sure this is the best list, but it's kind of like halfway between what I want and what I think is just cool.
Cool. What do you got for me?
An Atropo. Just one Atropo.
One. All right.
Just one Atropo for the beat stick and the cool. We have a Lancer for the beat stick and the cool. Those 2 are my heavy hitters. They're the big punchy carnifexes, the distractions. And then 2 Knight Abominants. One has the Malevolent Heraldry to be able to curate the dread abilities, and the other has the Veil of Medrengard to be a bit more forward into the battlefield for its psychic stuff.
Yep.
And then I complement the 4 big boys with 4 little boys. We have 2 Executioners trying to pluck off that Battle Shock thing.
Yep.
Coincidentally, near their targets will be, 2 Carnivores who are going to be able to spread the aura into the front line of your opponent. So trying to get as much little areas of dread auras and battle shocks and just go for that. And the models themselves do well anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely like what they've done with the Executioner. And the Carnivore has always been good.
I'm a big fan of the fact that I have 8 models, 1 for each point of the star. And I would potentially try and, if I were to build and paint these, I would try maybe do each one a little bit different, a bit more
Dreadbladey.
Yeah, you like unique allegiances. One's a Khorne, one's a Nurgle, one's a Be'lakor wants Vashtor, that kind of deal.
Yeah. No, I dig it.
What you got?
I'm talking through exactly what I want to be running. This is the list that I'm currently working through and, tweaking and testing and trying to get it work. And somehow I managed to get bang on 2k points.
Whoa.
I am running Lords of Dread, in case you didn't realize by how excited I got.
Yeah, you really perked up.
Yeah. We have 5 big knights in this list, and some of them are big knights.
Oh, yeah.
My warlord is the Knight Tyrant with that Warpborn Stalker that we were talking about.
For like 2 minutes, yeah.
We are running the Warp Shock Harpoon and Dark Flame Cannon. His whole purpose is to disrupt my opponent and come in and deal with some big threats. With him is a Knight Atropos.
Whoa.
He is cool, and I just felt like with the slight nerfs to the Tyrant, I needed some bigger anti-tank. Something to deal with the mirror matches and the dreadnoughts and the big problems. And then I have 3 Questoris pattern knights. We have a Knight Rampager with the Blade of Celerity. His job is get in, punch, and then pop his fights first when they go to punch back. We have a Knight Abominant as that midfield back sort of play. More using him as objective control as well. His whole plan will be sit there and let them come to him more than the other way round. And then we have a Knight Despoiler with the Battle Cannon and the Gatling Cannon as my walking gun platform / deal with whatever I can. And he has the Mirror of Fates. He's my threat piece.
You've got it all, my friend.
That left me with about 180 points.
Wow.
To spend. So we picked up 1 War Dog in the form of a War Dog Carnivore. It's just a little bit more frontline. It can hold its own in punching. I can run it around to sit on a objective if I need to. And then for 40 points, I threw in 3 Nurglings because they cost that much. If you've got it, you may as well, right?
It's always Nurglings.
They fit into Deep Strike with the Knight Tyrant. They can act as just like a little buffer. They can play backfield stuff. They are still OC0, so they won't do much in terms of scoring points, but they're also there to pop down and stop someone charging into a knight that I don't want them to charge into. And that's the list. That's 2,000 points for Lords of Dread.
It's very scary. You've covered a lot of bases with threat capabilities.
Yeah, it's I have something for everything sort of vibe is what I wanted, which in our little play group, you kind of need something for everything.
Hell yeah. Good luck to your opponents in the coming games. Holy moly. That's like something I'd read on the tournament list, my friend.
No, there's only 1 of everything.
My bad.
There's no 3 Abominants, 3 Atropos.
Yeah, it's a bit obnoxious seeing 3 Atropos. It's like, where'd you get those?
I haven't looked too close at meta lists because I wanted to get a grip on the codex myself before really looking at them. But in the little bit of study I have done into the meta as a whole in the recent weeks, everyone is like, everything sucks. This current meta is not fun. They're calling it, Spiky Bits called it the Nightmare on 40k Street.
Here you go. Here's a first place list at the Capital Clash Daka, a 49-player 5-round GT held in ACT Australia. This was like sometime last week, I believe. First place, a person named Alex Rigby with Lords of Dread got first place. They have a Knight Atropos with Putrid Carapace, a second Knight Atropos with Mirror of Fates, a Knight Lancer with the Throne Mechanicum of Skulls, Knight Despoiler with 2 Gatling Cannons, another Knight Despoiler, 1 Gatling Cannon, 1 Thermal Cannon, a War Dog Carnivore, and 3 Nurglings.
There you go, eh? Somehow I ended up pretty close to the mark. Just I've been playing this army a while, and apparently that's what it takes to understand, right?
You've clued in. Good job. I'm very proud of you, Boo.
I'm not. It means I'm going to get nerfed hard.
Well, not you. What you do is you just walk into the game with your codex, you pick an opponent who doesn't keep up with random PDFs being uploaded to warhammer.com, and you'd be like, yeah, see, this is what's in my book. That's good sportsmanship, right?
No, that's not very nice at all.
I'm joshing. Please be fair to your opponent. No cheating, no feels bads, no gotcha moments, okay?
Yes. We're all here to have fun.
Thank you. Oh my good lord. Shall we close out our episode, my friend?
We shall. Please check us out on the Insta, the YouTube when it's up, the Discords, all the fun places, wherever you get your local podcasting.
Leave some reviews, share it with your mates.
We love reviews. Reviews make us feel good, even if they're negative.
Yeah, we're big boys. We'll listen to your constructive criticisms, if need be.
As long as they're constructive.
But yeah, no, thank you very much for listening. I am going to go to bed now. Jonny, I have a statement that is going to be like a nightmare statement for you. It's 3:15 in the morning for me.
You're a braver man than me.
Well, as my, body clock starts to transition a bit more to where I am, this will be a lot harder to achieve. Luckily, our next recordings will be at a time that works a bit better still for both of us, I think.
Here's hoping.
Yeah, just had to slide this one out real quick.
For
yeah,
sure,
thank you
for sure.
Thank you for doing this with me. Yeah, that's it. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Everyone go have some hobby fun. Do what you gotta do. Enjoy.
Cool. Bye.